What's going on? It's Ethan with the Threewind podcast, and I'll be 100% honest. I'm hopping on the mic 9:46 p of m. It is May 15th. You're going to be seeing this on May 16th. This is episode, I believe, 24 of the Threewind podcast. And man, if you heard or paid attention to what I just said when I said I'm on the mic at 9:46, then you know that the Suns and Mavericks game just ended. And man, yeah. The game sevens today in the NBA, which is what this podcast is about today. So if you're not a big NBA fan, I'm sorry I cannot accommodate for you. I know there's a lot of hockey going on right now, but I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I tried to talk about hockey. And so I'm not going to be talking about hockey. But, go Avalanche. Anyways, the game sevens that happened today in the NBA are some of the most preposterous things that have happened in the NBA in recent times. And I want to talk about both of them. Now, I started off the day thinking that this game, this Celtics Mavericks game, could be any worse than the Bucks Celtics game we saw earlier, but man, was I so wrong. So I'm going to talk about the Bucks Celtics game first. I did watch that whole game, so I can kind of give you an idea of how I feel about it. I didn't watch the whole Suns Mavericks game. I had an event. I'm graduating high school, and we had a dinner tonight for the seniors in my senior class, and so I didn't get to watch the first half of the Suns Mavericks game. But I thought when I got home, it would still be competitive. I would still get to watch a good basketball game. I get home, check my phone, and the Mavericks are up by 40 on the Suns. So yeah, I watched the last two quarters of that game, but that was nothing. Like what I got to watch of that game was nothing. So I've had to learn what happened. It's pretty easy to see what happened though. But first, let's talk about the Boston Celtics versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I'll be completely honest. Through the first half, this game looked competitive. It looked like it would be a very tight game seven. The Celtics took a small advantage into halftime, but for the most part, Milwaukee was up the first half for the majority of the time, and I thought it was going to be competitive. It turned out that was not the case. Celtics pulled away big in the third and fourth quarters, and it just wasn't a super competitive game. I was wrong. I did think that the Bucks not only were going to win this series, but I thought the Bucks were going to win the whole thing, and that's not just your lazy, repeat championship take. I genuinely believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best basketball player in the world, and when you're missing your second best option, when you're the best basketball player in the world, missing your second option in the playoffs is still something you don't want to have to deal with. And honestly, I think the Celtics are the best team left in the playoffs. So that was the worst team to match up against for the Bucks, missing Chris Middleton, who is their second best player. I mean, Drew Holiday had some moments, and I'll actually pull up the box score right now, just so I can give you complete and accurate totals while I'm talking about the games. But Drew Holiday gave you some moments, and they weren't. He wasn't fantastic all the time, but he was what Drew Holiday is, and he had a good 21 points in this game. But he's not your second option guy. He's not a guy you want to be your second option on a championship team. A lot of teams wouldn't think Chris Middleton is, but because Giannis is so good, Chris Middleton works, and Drew Holiday is a fantastic third option. So this Bucks team was built to win. Now, sadly for the Bucks, I mean, I'm not. I don't really care. I'm a Jazz fan. I was rooting for the Bucks to win this series simply because I had them winning the whole thing. But for the most part, this is just disappointing. Giannis only had 25 points and 20. He did have 20 rebounds and 9 assists, but I believe he had 17 points in the first half. He only scored 8 points in the second half. I think he's the best basketball player in the world. I still do. The rest of this series was incredible for him. This game, just not so much. I tweeted out, I have a hard time imagining Giannis not stepping up in Game 7 and willing his team to a victory in Game 7 over the Celtics, whether or not they're in Boston or Milwaukee. It didn't really matter to me where they were at, but the fact that he didn't do that is a difficult thing. I haven't seen it from him very often where he's just been stopped, where he's unable to assert his will and dominance on an opponent. And for the most part, he did that. He did that this series, but this game not so much. 25 points out of him is not what you need in a Game 7. As much as you could point to last game when he had 40 plus points and say they still lost, and then say that that you would want other guys on the court to get involved because when he has 40 points, they still lose. But you got to get 40 points from the guy. I mean, he's the best basketball player in the world. You got to get 40 points from him. I know that's a lot to ask. I mean, the NBA is a crazy good league. Everybody there's great. But 25 points out of the supposed best player in the world is not the greatest thing. And the issue is Jason Tatum didn't even have a great game. Jaylen Brown didn't even have a great game. Their best player was Grant Williams. Do you know who Grant Williams is? Probably the most unathletic guy on the Celtics, who all he does is stand in the corner and take threes. It's if you're the Bucks, this is embarrassing, right? Because the Celtics scored 109 points and you still lost by 28 points. I gotta do quick math real quick. It's just embarrassing for the opposing teams. For you to have the supposed best basketball player in the world on your team, for the opposing team, best player to be Grant Williams in a Game 7, and you to lose by 28, there's no excuse. I don't care if your second best player isn't playing. There's just no excuse. The whole series, you could say that that's an excuse that Chris Middleton wasn't playing, that if he was, maybe this Game 7 never happens. But as far as this Game 7 goes, if the opposing team's best performer is Grant Williams, and you have the supposed best basketball player in the world on your team, it's just not an excuse. There's no excuse for that. To lose by 28, to not even get to 90, to barely get to 80 points and lose by 28 when the opposing team's best player on the night is Grant Williams and yours is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you got Drew Holiday. Bobby Portis was a no factor. Brook Lopez was all right tonight. All in all, just an embarrassing performance from Milwaukee. And I got the Celtics as my favorite to win it all now. When they beat the Nets, I was like, look, they looked great. They did look great against the Nets, and the Nets aren't a horrible team. But when they beat the Nets, it was kind of like, okay, they look great, but are they great? It's hard to determine that when you beat a team like the Nets, as dysfunctional as they are. And you're like, well, we'll see. We'll see if the Celtics are truly great next series when they play the reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks. Whether or not they have Chris Middleton, beating them would be a feat. And they did just that. They beat them. And I think they're going to beat Miami, and I think they're going to beat either Golden State or Dallas. I think this was their championship series right here. I don't even see them going 7 in another series. Now, I was wrong about this one. Could I be wrong again? Yeah. But I think the Celtics have a really good chance to win it all. How awesome would it be if we got a Celtics-Dallas finals? Luka Doncic versus... I'm tired. Luka Doncic versus Jason Tatum. That's a to die for finals, especially this early in their career. The whole Devin Booker versus Luka Doncic narrative that's been going on, and how that might be the next big rivalry. I'd like to see the next big rivalry be Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic. I think they're much more close as far as talent and skill goes than Devin Booker and Luka Doncic are. I think Luka blows Devin out of the water, and I don't think he blows Jason Tatum out of the water. I think he's better. I think Luka's better, and I think Luka is the best remaining player in the playoffs now. But I think that would be just a crazy cool series to see. This is what I think is going to happen in the next series. I think Jimmy Butler is going to be great. I think Bam Adebayo is going to be pretty dominant against a weaker front court of Boston. But I think Jason Tatum's going to do what he does. I think Jaylen Brown's going to do what he does. And I think Marcus Smart will have a better series. He's going to be matching up against Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Max Strus a lot. And I think that's just an easier matchup than Drew Holiday is. So I think I'm still leaning towards Boston. It's tough. Miami's a good team. And I actually think whoever comes out of the East in the Eastern Conference Finals is who's going to win it all. But I would put my money on Boston. This is big for Boston. This is really big for Boston. And it's huge for Jason Tatum. This could totally catapult Jason Tatum into being in the future being one of the greatest players of all time. He has the potential. But he hasn't been able to cement it in the playoffs yet. He's had a couple good runs. That this could very well be his best run, and I think they're off to a great start. Let's talk about the Mavericks and the Suns because this is the juicier game. As much as this was just a little bit more competitive, the Celtics and the Bucks was. The Suns and the Mavericks has been the juicier series, despite the fact that it's been kind of the worst series of the two. But the narratives that have been going on in this series make this just so much more juicy as far as content goes, as far as enjoyability goes. Seeing the Suns get beat in the manner that they got beat tonight is so nice and so rewarding for me because I don't like the Suns. I really don't like them. I hate Chris Paul, and we've talked about this before. I really just don't like Chris Paul. I think he's pretentious. I think he is like the old man of the league, complains and flops, and then when another guy flops, he complains, even though he's the biggest flopper in the league, and he just, I don't like him. I've never liked Chris Paul. Does that mean I care if he wins a ring? I'm not actively rooting against him to win a ring. Do your thing, dude. If you're doing great, do great. He wasn't great. He just wasn't that good at basketball in this series. In fact, he was really bad. He was really bad in this series. I'll pull up the box scores for that game too. Not that I don't know him. I kind of do know him, but the fact that especially in this game that I didn't get to watch the whole thing, I can't give you a full picture of it because I didn't start watching until the lead had already happened. All I know is that the Suns somehow managed to only score 10 points in the second quarter, and the Mavericks were up by 30 going into halftime, the biggest halftime deficit in NBA Finals playoff Game 7, I think, history, not game history of all games, but just Game 7. This was really embarrassing for the Suns, to say the least. But for individuals, Devin Booker didn't play good. Devin Booker's been this guy all series that's going toe-to-toe with Luka Doncic, challenging Luka, calling Luka out for flopping, doing this and that, falling to the ground and acting like he's hurt, and then calling that the Luka, whatever, something, the Luka effect or the Luka Doncic special or something like that. And then to get absolutely destroyed in this game, it's kind of sweet. And I like Devin Booker. I've always liked Devin Booker, but if you're going to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk, and he definitely did not tonight, and the Suns did not at all. I mean, I'll go through here and give you the totals of each individual player, and it's just awful. Mikal Bridges, two rebounds, 1 assist, 6 points. Atrocious. Somehow the Suns managed to muster up 90 points. It was looking for a while like they weren't going to hit like 75. I guess some of that came in crunch time. A lot of that came in crunch time. Jay Crowder, 5 points. I know you're not asking a lot of Jay Crowder, but he has had a couple good games over this playoff run. So for him to be as bad as he was, it shows how bad the Suns were tonight. DeAndre Ayton, 5 points, 4 rebounds. Look, if Rudy Gobert was DeAndre Ayton in this game, you would never hear the end of it. Never hear the end of it. I'm just saying, I got to show a little support for my guy Rudy. He didn't have the greatest playoff series, but if he was on the Suns and had something similar to any of these guys in a Game 7 of a playoff series, then he would be destroyed on social media. I'm hoping all these guys get destroyed because they deserve it. Devin Booker, 11 points, 2 assists, awful, atrocious. But he did that. He played 37 minutes, dude. 37 minutes with 11 points. How is that even possible? How do you get to a Game 7 if this is hidden in you somewhere? This level of just embarrassingly bad play is just buried within you somewhere. How do you get to the finals last year? How do you take a 2-0 lead in the finals last year, be the best regular season team in the league this year, get to a Game 7 in the regional finals of the playoffs? I don't get it how the Suns were even good if their best player could only muster up 11 points in a Game 7 playing 37 minutes. How does that happen? Chris Paul, 10 points. And some of those points came in garbage minutes. He played 31 minutes. But some of those were garbage minutes where he scored. It was like fourth quarter, and he still had 3 points. Point God, who? Dude has 0 rings. Dude's never going to win a ring. And if he does it, he's not going to be one of the best players on the team. It's going to be when he's old and about to croak, and he's sitting on the end of the bench and letting Ja Morant carry him to a championship. Or how ironic would it be if he was on the Dallas Mavericks and Luka was carrying him to a championship. But this guy, this point God, don't ever tell me he's above Steve Nash. He's not. Don't ever tell me he's above Isaiah Thomas. He's not. This guy is one of the biggest frauds in NBA history. Because he's had this history of being one of the greatest point guards in the league and of all time, and he can never win. He can never win, even when it's right there at the tip of his fingers. He was up 2-0 in the finals last year. Lost 4 straight after that. Here he is against the Dallas Mavericks team, who, for the most part, is a one-man band. Now, I know they had help tonight, but for the most part, it's a one-man show. And you put up 10 points in 31 minutes. I don't get how that's possible. Dude the point guard had 4 assists. Like, if you're going to put up 10 points in 31 minutes, at least give me double-digit assists. It's mind-boggling how this was hidden somewhere in these guys. Did they take like hard narcotics before this game? How did this happen? Cameron Johnson, only 20 minutes, but he scored 12 points. Not good for him. I mean, that's not atrocious for Cameron Johnson. He had the most points on the team. JaVale McGee, I mean, he gave you 6 points. I mean, I'm not begging for JaVale McGee production. Landry Shamet, 9 points is actually decent for Landry Shamet. 5 points from Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne's been bad in this playoff run. I'm sorry. I'm a Murray State guy. You can see it right there. Cameron Payne's been bad in this entire playoff run. He's been bad. And then there's no point in talking about any of the other guys. You know who had the same amount of... This is funny, though, because I didn't even realize this, and I know this came in, like, crunch time, because the dude only played 5 minutes. I mean, not crunch time, garbage time. Ishmael Wainwright, and I knew there was a guy named Wainwright. I didn't even know this dude's first name. Ishmael Wainwright had 10 points, the same amount of points as Chris Paul. Get the hell out of here, dude. That's ridiculous. You look at the other side of the floor, Luka Doncic has 35 points and 10 rebounds, and he only played 3 quarters. Spencer Dinwiddie played 25 minutes, but he was in and out pretty much every quarter. He played in the crunch time minutes when Luka was out in the fourth quarter, because there was no point in Luka playing in the fourth quarter. Spencer Dinwiddie ends up with 30 points. I mean, Jalen Brunson, 24 points and 6 rebounds. Didn't even seem like he was doing a ton, and he had 24 points. I don't know what to say, dude. Are the Suns just done? I actually did. I had a blog almost written the other day called "Turns Out the Suns Are Massive Frauds," and I didn't publish it for a couple of reasons. One, because I wrote it and I didn't really like it, and two, because I thought there was still a chance, right? I thought that they were still there. They were somewhere deep inside of them, somewhere buried deep inside of them was still the Suns. That was the best team in the regular season that went to the finals last year and went up 2-0 on the Milwaukee Bucks and ended up winning. I know they ended up winning, but the Suns were still up 2-0 at one point. Somewhere deep inside of them, I just thought it was buried, right? What we got was the total polar opposite. Yes, somewhere deep inside them was buried a whole load of garbage, and that's what we got tonight, a whole load of garbage. The Suns sucked. Dude, was this the worst playoff game in the history of playoff games? And I know you're going to be like, oh, no, there was bigger beats. I mean, there probably wasn't that many bigger beats than this, because I know the final score, the Mavs won by 33. But there was one point where they were pushing 50. They were pushing a 50-point lead in the fourth and third quarters. Was this the biggest just embarrassing game in NBA playoff history? I think I'm not an expert. I can't go way back and tell you if there were more embarrassing games than this, but this has to be up there, right? I just don't see how this happens, man. I just don't see how this happens. The Mavericks they're not bad. They're not bad, but they're nothing to write home about. The Mavericks aren't any sort of crazy team that has just an incredible deep roster. Their second best player tonight was Spencer Dinwiddie, who has been okay, but has not been better than these guys on the Suns, and is definitely not a 30-point score in a Game 7 when the best player on the Suns scored 11 points, dude. Are you kidding me? This is crazy to me, dude. This entire game just doesn't make any sense. Like, it wasn't even real. 33-point win. They were almost up by 50 at one point. 30-point lead at halftime. The Suns scored 10 points in the second quarter. 17 points in the first quarter. The only decent quarter and I know they scored 40 in the final quarter, but that was when the guys from the Mavericks were all into the bench players. The third quarter was the only respectable quarter they had, 23 points, and they still lost that quarter by 12. I didn't see this coming. And the main reason I didn't see this coming was because I didn't think it could happen. I had the Mavericks winning this game, but I thought it was going to be tight. I just thought that the Mavericks had the best player. And in games like this, having the best player is important. Having the best player matters. I've always thought that in games like this, with Game 7s, crunch times, having the best player on the floor is probably the most important thing to have. And the Mavericks have it by a long shot. I think Luka Doncic is way better than Devin Booker and way, way better than Chris Paul. But I still thought it was going to be competitive just because of how deep the Phoenix Suns are. Devin Booker and Chris Paul are still very good. They didn't look like it tonight. They looked absolutely awful tonight. I'm being 100% honest when I say this. I think you could put me out there for the Suns tonight. and you wouldn't have known a difference. You wouldn't have known a difference. You may have been like, who's this out of shape, short guy who only has post moves, who got blocked 12 times by tall people because I'm 6'1", I'm taller than I'm like Payne out there, but I have no outside jumper. I can only do like post hooks because when I played basketball in middle school, I was bigger than everybody, and they made me play center despite the fact that I didn't keep growing, and I stopped, and now I can only play center despite the fact that I'm the size of a guard. And I know we're going in a little tangible. I think you could put me out there tonight for the Suns, and you wouldn't have known a difference. The score would have been the same. I may have even helped. You cannot tell me that those minutes that I gave you would not be just as valuable as the minutes that Elfrid Payton gave them tonight. 5 minutes, I know, but you put me out there for 5 minutes, I think I could get a bucket. I mean, I know that's kind of crazy, but like the guys in for the Mavericks were the guys off the bench. They'd probably let me score. Like, who's this weird kid? Who's this like Make-A-Wish kid out here? Let him score. I don't think you'd see a difference if I played for the Suns tonight. That's how bad it was. That's kind of the gist of that story. How bad it was for the Suns tonight. I just can't get over this. It was awful. I think that's all I want to talk. I think that's all I want to talk about that game for. Let's do a little bit of a preview for the next round for this side. I gave you my preview for the other side. I think the Western Conference Finals is going to be a little underwhelming. In my heart, I want to say the Mavericks win, and I think coming off of this game, it could go one of two ways. They could have all the momentum in the world. They could come into the Western Conference Finals ready to go to the finals and just play the best basketball of their lives because there's no better time than now after beating this team. Or it could go the other way. This was their peak. They're going to plateau or decrease in ability, and they're just not going to be this good again, and the Warriors are going to walk all over them. I want to see the Mavericks win. I think the Mavericks have a very good shot at winning. I think the Suns are a better team than the Warriors, so beating the Suns, yeah, they can beat the Warriors. The Warriors haven't been incredible in their playoffs. They did beat the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies were a little bit down and under, and they themselves had a horrendous loss at one point. So, yeah, I think the Mavericks could come in and beat the Warriors. If I had to put my money on it, though, I'd probably side with the Warriors. It's hard to win series like this back to back to back. The Mavericks were the favorites to beat the Jazz, but not the favorites to the point that they beat the Jazz. Like, they beat down on the Jazz big time, probably worse than people were expecting. And then they definitely weren't the favorites in this series by a long shot. They beat the Suns. And then they're not going to be the favorites in the Warriors series. I just don't think you're going to have 3 straight series like that. I think they're going to lose to the Warriors. I think the Warriors are going to go to the finals. We're going to get to see the dynasty that is the Warriors back in the finals. And I think we're going to see the Celtics come out of the East and meet the Warriors, and I think the Celtics are going to win. And I think the Celtics have kind of had their championship. I think that Celtics against the Bucks was the championship. I kind of think the Celtics versus the Nets was like an Eastern Conference Finals, and I think the Miami Celtics is like your finals, like their championship part 2. Like this. The Bucks will be the hardest team they have to play, and I think the Heat will be the second hardest team they have to play, and whoever they play in the finals I think is going to be kind of a breeze, and I think the Celtics might sweep the finals, which is lame, and I know it's kind of crazy that the East is way better than the West right now, but this is kind of the world we're living in. I think the Celtics are going to sweep whoever they play in the finals. Now, it's funny because I have the Warriors beating the Mavericks, but I actually think the Mavericks have a better chance against the Celtics. Something about Luka Doncic in the finals just screams he has to win it, right? If Luka Doncic gets to the finals, that dude's dropping 60 points a game. I'm sorry. Like, if Luka Doncic, I know how he is, gets to the finals, I don't think he could be stopped. Like, he's going to go so hard. Dude's going to average, like, Wilt numbers. I think he could do that against the Warriors too, but I think once he gets to finals, just having the word finals up there and having the chance to win his first championship at how old is he, 23, 22, would be a big, big moment. I think Luka Doncic is already cementing his legacy. I think he's going to end up going down as one of the top 10 players of all time. Look, I tweeted out a couple funny tweets, one of which was, this is the worst possible outcome of this game for Trae Young fans. Because the narrative that not many are pushing, because not many people are this idiotic, but that some are pushing that Trae Young is better than Luka Doncic because Luka Doncic hasn't had any playoff success, which is stupid because Luka's been fantastic in the playoffs. His teams just haven't been. and that Trae Young making it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year cements him as the more dominant and impactful player than Luka Doncic. Yeah, no, this is by far better than anything that Trae Young did last year. So, yeah, this is bad for Trae Young fans. This is bad for Phoenix Suns fans. This is good for Utah Jazz fans because it's looking more and more like we lost to a really good team when I don't think we actually did. I think the Mavericks are on a hot streak, but I don't think they're a legitimate Western Conference Finals team. They're on a hot streak and they're playing great, and I'm not going to take anything away from them, but are they better than the Suns? I still don't think so. Anything else? Oh, let me talk about this. I make TikToks, right? This is not gonna be a long podcast because this is all I have to talk about today is these two games. So yeah, this is episode 24 of the podcast. But if you want to count this as like 23 and a half, that's fine too because this is not gonna be a long episode. But I made a TikTok for the first time in like a month, and that's my bad because I need to make TikToks every single day because it's good for Threewind and it's a good way to grow the brand. But I made a TikTok for the first time in a month yesterday. My top 5 current players in the second round of the playoffs. And this was after the Grizzlies and the 76ers lost. So we had the Heat to choose from, Celtics, Mavs, Suns, Warriors, and Bucks. So my top 5 was Devin Booker at 5, Jason Tatum at 4, Steph Curry at 3, Luka Doncic at 2, Giannis at 1. And I have a little bit of revising to do. I have now Jimmy Butler at 5, Jason Tatum at 4, Stephen Curry at 3, or you could even put Jason Tatum at 3, but he didn't have the greatest game tonight. I think Jason Tatum and Steph Curry at 3 and 4 interchangeable. Luka Doncic at 2 and Giannis at 1. But the funniest thing was there's a guy in my TikTok comment section just going to war for Jimmy Butler, and I love it, man. I love it. There's nothing better than going to war for your favorite guys. For your guys, man, there's nothing better. And he goes in so hard. I had guys in the comment section saying, I could see Jimmy Butler at 3. Yeah, I agree. Jimmy Butler's a great two-way player. I could see Jimmy Butler at 3. You could make the argument for Jimmy Butler at 3. That's fine. You could make the argument for Jimmy Butler at 3, 4, and 5. But Jimmy Butler is not better than Luka Doncic. And Jimmy Butler is not better than Giannis Antetokounmpo. This dude comes into my comment section. Jimmy Butler is the clear best player in the playoffs right now, averaging yada, 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 a great two-way threat. The Miami Heat are doing crazy things right now. And I'm like, dude, no. Like, Jimmy Butler is not Luka Doncic, and Jimmy Butler is not Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you put Jimmy Butler on the Mavericks and took Luka Doncic off, the Suns win this series. And if you put Luka Doncic on the Heat and took Jimmy Butler out, they sweep the 76ers. So, yeah, Jimmy Butler's great, and you could make the argument for him all the way up to 3. I didn't have him on my original top 5, but I had him on my honorable mentions, and now looking back at it, he's probably deserving to be at least over Booker. But to say he's over Luka is crazy. To say he's over Giannis is even crazier. But hey, we're going to see an incredible matchup next series because we got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, as much as I don't like the guy, going up against Jimmy Butler, this rando's best player in the world apparently, and Bam Adebayo. And then on the other end, you have Luka Doncic, and I wish I could name some other players. I know Spencer Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson have had good series and had good games, but it's really just Luka Doncic versus Steph Curry. And yeah, it's kind of the same thing where Draymond Green's great, obviously, but it's still like I don't think Draymond Green's going to stop Luka, so he's kind of like, is Draymond Green that important when he can't stop a guy? Because none of the other guys on Dallas really need stopping per se. Like if you put Draymond Green and had him defend, like he's going to be on Maxi Kleber for a lot of the time. So, yeah, no. I mean, speaking of Maxi, what did he do in this game? Did he play? Yeah, he played. Maxi Kleber's so weird, dude. He dominated against the Jazz, had 3 points tonight. I guess they didn't need it, but still, it's so weird. But yeah, Draymond's going to be matching up against like Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell. So, I don't think Draymond's going to be the most effective player in this next series. Clay is good for a game 6. Yeah, and Jordan Poole he's there, and he's inconsistent, but when he's on, he's on. And now, don't get me wrong, when he's good, but he is inconsistent. I think this is really comes down to Steph Curry versus Luka Doncic, and who would I pick? Who would I rather have? Luka Doncic. So I could see the Mavericks winning. But after the fact, you have to, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole is better than Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Brunson, and Maxi Kleba. So sure, give me the Golden State Warriors to win that series, and on the other side, give me the Celtics. But and in the finals, give me the Celtics, right? I don't really care who comes out of the West. I think the Celtics are going to win it all. And I think that if the Heat beat the Celtics, I think the Heat are going to win it all. So either way, how cool would it be, though, if the Heat just pretty much ran it back for a couple years? I mean, they added Kyle Lowry. They added Victor Oladipo. You know, they have a better Tyler Hero. But really similar team to run it back 2 years after losing to LeBron and the Mickey Mouse Lakers to come back and win a ring would be kind of cool. I like the Heat. I like the Celtics. I like the Mavs. And to be honest, I don't really hate the Warriors. So as long as the Suns didn't win the ring, that's okay. Not that I was actively rooting against them. Once the Jazz were out, I'm like, I don't really care who wins. The only guy I actively root against to win rings is LeBron, and I guess Chris Paul a little bit. I'm telling a little bit of a lie when I say I don't care if Chris Paul wins a ring. I'd rather Chris Paul not win a ring. I don't like him, but still, I really don't care. But this was a very likable. This is a very likable conference finals look on both sides. So what will we see? That will come. We will know. Also, the NBA lottery is coming up pretty soon. Expect another mock draft from me after the lottery when I know the actual teams that are going to be picking and where they're going to be picking. Because I did the first 1.0 of my mock draft. It did pretty good. The blog did pretty good, and I presume my 2.0 will do pretty good as well. So I think that's all I have to talk about was those two games. And I know this was more of a recap of those two games than a full podcast, but I really got into it. Make sure you like this video, like every pod episode that you watch, and subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're just listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us a 5-star review. Even if you don't think it's a 5-star, it doesn't really matter that much for you to give us any lower than that. So go ahead and give us a 5-star review because it would really mean a lot to me, and I would love it if you did. In fact, you might even I might even owe you a hug if you did that, and I give good hugs. And then finally, follow us on those platforms and follow us on all our social medias. TikTok, like I mentioned earlier, Instagram. We do a lot on Instagram. That's where you can see all our blogs. Twitter. All our blogs are on Twitter as well. Follow me personally on Twitter, Threewind Ethan. Yeah. And anything else, Facebook. Also Facebook. I think that's all I have. Thanks for watching the Threewind podcast. Hopefully next week we'll have the guys back, but this week I had to kind of do this on short notice because I had a busy day today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Next week I will officially be a high school graduate. See you.